and welcome to the Raw Review. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture, joined by another one, darling boys, Michael Hamflett from WhatCulture, here to review everything that happened on the Raw after WrestleMania. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review Raw, but also SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0, AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. As I said, though, joined by Michael Hamflett in the beautiful Aurora Bar in the Luxor Hotel and Casino to review the Raw after WrestleMania and quite possibly one of the best Raw after WrestleManias ever.
Oh my God. I can no longer feel my fingers. The flesh is burned clean off them. It's simply skin and bone. Sorry. Oh. I knew I shouldn't have taken a temperature check after that episode. Right. Oh my God, ain't it sweet? Fred's back. Unbelievable scenes at Flanker Bar, of course. Thank you very much for hosting us last night, and everybody that came down to watch the show with us will have seen us getting excited. They kind of had a preview of this podcast, right? Because they saw us getting extremely excited. But if you watched it, you probably felt the same way. Possibly in the follow-up to a WrestleMania that, for those watching not in the stadium, were quite disappointed by, especially by the end of WrestleMania Night 2. The perfect Raw to at very least validate some of the booking. Like we said, that WrestleMania had a lot of moments that could have been reset points, but then you have to follow that through. Yeah. It's all about actually seeing that through, and last night's show was a perfect example of that. Like so many things we're going to get into, so like eventful. A ticket seller of a show in like next year's Raw after WrestleMania will feel like event television that you might want to be a part of if you're too tired from all the other events going on. And as a way to like immediately do what this show should always do, which is sort of reheat you and reset your expectations for the next wrestling calendar year ahead, like bordering on home run, I think.
Yeah, I think in the last couple of years, Triple H really has transformed the Raw after WrestleMania that, you know, we were unlucky enough to attend for quite some time. I remember distinctly the ones after WrestleMania 38 and WrestleMania 39 being particularly iffy moments, but last year's and this year's in particular, I really feel like we've got that show back, and there's just so many things to talk about. I apologize if I missed things out because I was just so giddy watching this show from the moment it opened. You know, we talked about it on the preview yesterday about how everything was going to fit in, and thank goodness for the Netflix deal because it allowed them to be flexible with the length of this show. And I think this was a 3-hour show that flew by, yeah, absolutely, and felt necessary for all the stuff that happened on the show. Let's start right at the beginning, though. Of course, the new champion, the record-breaking world champion, John Cena, comes out to open the show. He's introduced. He does his very low-key entrance as he does now, except for the massive amounts of pyro that went off as he held up the title in the ring. Mark Shunock was told to reintroduce him basically as the last real world champion in WWE. And Cena said that winners write history, called the fans fickle as well because of how they sort of cheered him after...
How dare they boo Cody? He was basically saying, everything I've said is right. You were booing Cody Rhodes. You've proved me right yet again.
Cena called them the sorriest lowlies he's ever seen, as they were chanting, "We are sorry," by the way. Crowd responded by calling him an asshole, and he said something like, "I am maybe an anus, but you don't mean anything to me." And he's been called a lot worse over 25 years, and he's never cracked. They're never going to get to him. And then I really like what they did next. He flashed up 36 dates in that font, on white on black font that he has for his entrance now. 36 dates he talked about, and he counted down all the way down to 27, and that's appearances, that's not matches. He reiterated this, saying basically winning the world title was the hardest thing. Now he's got it, that's it. He's just got to appear 27 more times for WWE, and then he's going to retire with his belt and it's going to disappear. And yes, he knows they're going to crown new champions, but everyone will really know that the real world champion is John Cena. The title held by Bruno Sammartino, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Stone Cold Steve Austin would come home with him when that number reaches 0. No mention of The Rock, but still. He said the best you had to save you was Cody Rhodes, and a few people booed his name again, and Cena called them heartless bastards. He reminded them about everyone putting him on their shoulders a year ago, and now they're going back and forth cheering and booing him. What's wrong with you people, he says. And that's also why he said that Cody Rhodes was outshone, out-wrestled, and destroyed. No one in WWE has the strength, speed, wisdom, or ruthless aggression of John Cena. But unlike them, Cena said he had a heart, so he wanted to do something nice. So he invited the fans to take out their cameras and get one final photo of the last real world champion. But as he's doing this and as he's posing with the title in the air, who should slide in but babyface hero, still can't believe I'm saying that, Randy Orton, to pop up behind him, lick his chops, and nail him. He said a naughty word as he was in midway getting hit with it. Nail John Cena with an RKO to stand over him and presumably set up the future direction of John Cena and this world title as we head towards Backlash.
Yeah, we talked about this in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania when Backlash was announced as being in St. Louis. Like, Randy Orton felt like a natural opponent for either Cody Rhodes or John Cena. It was pretty cool that he'd called his shot against Cody and like they'd kind of subverted our expectations that he would turn. But at the same time, it was even cooler to think of this heel and babyface swap after all the years when I couldn't think of much worse than watching John Cena and Randy Orton. And I kind of can't wait for it. Yeah. Like, they have made the least appealing sort of like big star program of their darkest period creatively and turned it into this magic 1 month first title defense to John Cena. I do not expect Randy Orton to win. Already, like, the hardest thing they can do is maybe beyond their abilities as a promotion, but they're going to make the journey just a simple case of it's John Cena versus Randy Orton. You never thought it would look like this. Yeah. And now here we are. And of course, what a place to do it. Like, you could do it anywhere right now, and Randy Orton's super over as a babyface, and they're going to sing his theme, and they're going to boo John Cena, but doing it in his hometown. That's not backing down. That's doubling down. Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah, I love this to open the show, and we just kept rolling from there. We see the usual shots of the crowd with loads of people from Netflix shows, people like Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias, of course, some guys from Pat McAfee's show, more on them in a little while, and of course the number one contenders from NXT, Tatum Paxley and Gigi Dolin, because they were running back the women's tag team title match. Becky Lynch and Lyra, 2 belts, Lyra Valkyria defending the women's tag team titles against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. And I was in such a good mood. I was okay with this because I thought, well, yeah, they could probably turn around to Adam Pearce and say, well, we didn't have a chance to prepare for Becky Lynch. We want our rematch and we want it tonight. Hence why this match was here. And quite the development, because you thought there was going to be a couple of relatively straightforward retentions on this show with Dominik Mysterio a little bit later on. That is not the case, though. Again, the heels beat up Lyra Valkyria for the majority of this match. It was the story of her desperately trying to get help from Becky Lynch and Becky struggling to get involved. I thought Raquel Rodriguez looked really good in here. Her big boot's awesome. She just proper lays it in. It went wild at one point. There was Lynch and Valkyria trying to double superplex on Rodriguez, but Morgan brings Lynch down with a powerbomb, and Rodriguez gives Valkyria a powerbomb off the middle rope for a near fall. Everyone's down. There's a "this is awesome" chant. Valkyria hit a tornado DDT and a Nightwing, but Morgan put Raquel's foot on the bottom rope. So Lynch and Morgan brawled on the outside. Valkyria hit Morgan with a baseball slide, but Rodriguez just smashed Valkyria with a big boot for a near fall. In amongst all this, you had Rodriguez powerbombing Liv Morgan onto Lyra, but Lyra gets rid of Raquel, blocks Morgan's Oblivion, sets up for Nightwing, but Rodriguez gets involved and grabs her to stop her from doing it, and Lynch tries to make the save, but Raquel pushes her aside. Valkyria knocks Raquel off the apron. In the midst of all this, though, Morgan catches her with a wicked-looking Oblivion, like spikes her on her head, and gets the 1-2-3. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez regain their women's tag team titles. 4-time champs heading to NXT tonight as we record this. And, well, do you want to do match and then we'll do post-match?
Yeah, there wasn't like loads to the match beyond what we kind of talked about the WrestleMania one. Like, it was a lot of the basics being done really well by people that are really over. Lyra Valkyria continues to improve as a kind of Ricky Morton babyface that's reaching through the screen, that kind of real heart and sleeve babyface. And I think she gets better and better at that. It's another string to her bow, which itself is getting bigger and bigger. Meanwhile, Becky Lynch's star power sort of like carried that end of things. There was always noise. There was always a sense of drama. You mentioned Raquel Rodriguez, who I think had a better night on Raw than she did at WrestleMania, truth be told. I don't know if it was one of them situations where some of the other factors in the Mania match meant that her star power wasn't really able to shine. Not so here. I thought she was really good here. Again, Liv Morgan is so good at making space for her. Like the way she sort of conducts her own business and the movement she creates. I always think about like the the heavy and the cartoon villain. Let's get him, boys. Like that. So they're so good together like that. Aye. Not the talking point, obviously. That's what we're about to get to next. But a solid bit of business from something that when it first flashed up, I think all of us went, well, like, can they sort of that groan in the bar of what we did, like a rematch night? Yeah, so on those terms, which again might be a bit of bar lowering, I would say like a very, very minor over delivery.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it was all in purpose of a bigger story coming out of this show, because post-match, Becky Lynch, you always know what's coming when they sort of linger on the losers of a match like this. Becky Lynch helps Valkyria to her feet, hugs her, and then nails her with a clothesline. She punches her a few times and yells at her, and there's a split second where you're like, oh, don't just do that. Don't just do a couple of shots in there, because she goes to leave because Lyra is so stunned she doesn't even try to defend herself. She can't believe what's happening. And Becky Lynch goes to leave, but then doubles back and drops her with consecutive manhandle slams, and she lays her out. Stands tall, yells at her, she's pissed off, she's turned heel, and she's had enough of all this. And I don't think you need to look much further to find out who the attacker of Bayley was before WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's like an interesting sort of aspect of this now, isn't it? Is that like Becky Lynch potentially taking out Bayley to get the opportunity, the shortcut, I guess, back to the top. Maybe a sense of insecurity that like there's a new generation that have come up to potentially replace her as the man. So she gets that attack, which means she gets into the WrestleMania match. They win, and it's kind of a perfect plan. Like, she's executed to perfection. And now with this, like, you screwed it up. All you had to do was keep winning the belts. I thought this was really interesting because after the John Cena promo at the start of the show, which gave you like a happier outcome, but was all rooted in John Cena telling you how awful he was going to make WWE. I mean, sometimes the work sounds a bit like a shoot, but like how awful he was going to make all this. With this as well, there felt very much the presence of the dark cloud we spoke about, you know, kind of like hovering over planet WWE. Yeah. Cody Rhodes has been dethroned. John Cena's threatened to take the title hostage. And now Becky Lynch, of all people, is turning on somebody that idolised it in Lyra Valkyria. There's like an uneasy feeling in your stomach about just the lay of the land for the baby faces. And like what a theme, what a running theme that would be throughout the show. Like they said, WrestleMania in the party city, in the greatest place. It's time for the dark forces to get back to work and do the business. And this was like a pattern that, like, I thought played very nicely right into the hands of the payoff of the main angle of the show.
And speaking of dark forces, we saw our boy Karrion Kross just smirking at New Day as they were walking through to come out for this next segment. Celebrated, obviously, winning the Raw Tag Team titles at WrestleMania. Xavier Woods tells us to get on our knees and thank God for the New Day. Kofi says there's no team alive or dead who are better than the New Day, and we're getting excited maybe about a Fraxium debut on the main roster, but not so here, because instead Alpha Academy interrupts. Maxine Dupree, who cuts a really good promo here, I thought, puts over the fact that Otis and Akira Tozawa beat them in just 60 seconds last time, called them Minutemen. I didn't really understand that.
Right, so like when you're having sex, you're supposed to, I like to go a good 2 or 3 hours when I'm per sex. Like one sex should last 2 or 3 hours, and they're saying that they can only last a minute. And that's not right.
Wrong with that, a sex on an early night. So anyway, they are baited into obviously saying, all right, let's have a fight then. Let's put our titles on the line right now. Get a referee out here. As that happens, the lights go out, and you're like, what the hell's happening? And Rusev returns. The New Day use this as a chance to scarper out of there, understandably, as Rusev kills both Otis and Tozawa. Otis rips his shirt off and tries to fire up, but Rusev drops him with a thrust kick and puts him in the accolade. Oh, my word, it's great to see him back in a WWE ring.
Yeah, like Route 1 stuff, but that's not necessarily a bad thing here. Rusev returned like it was only yesterday he left. Yeah. There were elements of the Miro packaging of the character, which I think are quite good. Like the fight shorts, like sort of mixed in with the original Rusev gimmick. So I think he's already put some thought into the look. He looked in incredible shape, like he always does. But it was right where he left off. And if anything, kind of better than where he left it because of how the company had previously mishandled him so much. It felt immediately, with him coming out and destroying comedy characters, that he was going to sort of be what we want, which is a sort of charming, glint in his eye version of the Redeemer. that he was in AEW. That run is what made everybody feel like he could be a world champion. So you've taken the Rusev day that was never truly exploited to its full potential in WWE, added that like top guy seasoning that he had as Miro in AEW, and you might have the perfect composite. Yeah. We will see. Look, he's battered the tag division. It's not necessarily like he's coming in an angle elsewhere on this show, shall we say? But we will see. You know, there's often a process to these things. And this gave me like a good feeling that if nothing else, like, he will slot in as a guy that can become either a babyface or a heel gatekeeper below the title, like straight away. And if you're doing that straight away, then there's plenty of time to break back into that top spot.
Yeah, it's really interesting the Raw after WrestleMania because, sometimes you have stuff that is clearly meant for the next few weeks, i.e. Randy Orton coming up and immediately RKOing John Cena and what we saw at the end of this show, which is going to be a big storyline throughout the year. But also, you have to try and use it as a springboard to introduce new things, but maybe stuff that's going to be put not necessarily on the back burner. I want to see Rusev week in and week out, obviously, but certainly not like... I don't think we're going to see Rusev challenging for a title at Backlash, for example. I think it's going to be, like you say, this introduction of him running through people quite early and just re-establishing him as, the Miro-esque Redeemer character who just destroys people that we saw in AEW. But, a really exciting time, and especially with new mid-card champions. I'm not suggesting he should just be limited to the mid-card. For me, he should be challenging for world titles. But my word, with Dominik Mysterio right there, and of course Jacob Fatu on the other brand, it's very, very intriguing to see where Rusev fits in with all this. The Judgment Day celebrating their back because now not only have they got Dom's title, of course, now Liv and Raquel have got one as well, and everyone's happy except for Finn Balor, who comes in very grumpy. But he says, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and he would be there for Dom tonight in his title defense against Penta. Of course, Balor barely taking his eyes off the IC title here. And also, in amongst all this, I should mention they announced Survivor Series 2025 in San Diego. No mention of War Games in the advertising, which was very interesting. And fingers crossed. So out comes the still Raw Women's Champion, Io Sky, who obviously gets an amazing reaction. We love her. She calls last night the best night of her career. She's over the moon because she beat the best that there is. And... Rhea and Bianca tried to forget her, but now nobody would forget her. She's the genius of the sky. She is the Women's World Champion. But then she was interrupted by another champion, La Primera, the NXT Women's Champion, Stephanie Vaquer. It was sort of a weirdly friendly challenge, this. Yeah. She was out there to show respect, but she wants to fight the best of the best, says Vaquer. And Sky says, I accept. And... Sky suggested they do the match right now. Out came Adam Pearce, and we thought, what are you going to do here? But he said, you know what? You guys want to see it? I want to see it too. Let's make it happen. First time ever, surely, this match.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware. And what a cool thing to throw on as a surprise on this Raw as well. I do like that, genuinely, it sounds boring. I like that they got the admin squared away. Like,
this on the night,
I do like that they included that in it. It's a nice detail. Like, it's wrestling, and they can kind of pick and choose the rules they like to follow. But I did appreciate Adam Pearce coming out and making the match. And in terms of just marking out as something potentially thrown into your lap that you weren't expecting, this, maybe more than anything else on the card or on the show, this match is what is going to like spark that joyous feeling next year's Raw after WrestleMania, and potentially like when you're kind of starting to fantasy book again, because that's what you want to do, right? You want to fantasy book a card like this. You want to be able to think, who's going to turn up tonight? We were doing it yesterday on the preview. It was like, well, is there going to be any call-ups? Maybe. Are there going to be any run-ins? Well, we've got one coming soon. Yeah. And it's like, that's the stuff you talk about in anticipation of the show. So actually, when you get it delivered to you, it lights the way for like future editions of the show.
And I like this so much, I am actually going to defend the Debbie Deeks that we got in this match. I don't think anyone anticipated we were going to get a finish here with two of the champions, of course, going at it. I know no titles are on the line, but nevertheless, you don't want to weaken either of them somewhat. But yeah, it was really fun to see Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky go at it. First time ever, as we mentioned. As we went to a break, Io Sky hit a suicide dive, but then Stephanie Vaquer came off the barricade to take control as we went into a break. When we come back, Vaquer avoids a moonsault, hits a nice dragon screw and a running Meteora for two. Vaquer eventually manages to set up. No Booker T on commentary, but that didn't stop everyone getting very excited for that leg scissors head stomps thing that she does. And Vaquer enjoys doing it, does it a couple of times, I seem to remember. Sky comes back, though, hits a nice-looking backbreaker, a German suplex, But Vaquer fires back with one of her own. They go up to the top. Sky hit a Spanish fly. Sky sets up for the running dropkick, but who should run in but Roxanne Perez from NXT, who didn't attack Stephanie Vaquer. Instead, she attacked Io Sky. And here's where I'm going to come in and defend this, because I like it. Julia came in as well. I should mention that before I forget, to go after Io Sky. That looks like she's going to be the one moving to the main roster to potentially do that sort of feud eventually, because Rhea Ripley came down and made the save too with a nice shiner, whilst also reminding Io Sky that she's not forgotten about her and she still wants that title belt of hers back. But yeah, Roxanne Perez gets involved, causes the DQ, but causes the DQ and therefore the win for Io Sky by attacking her first, because she said herself on NXT she still wants to fight Stephanie Vaquer for that title. And while she's around, Stephanie Vaquer isn't going to get what she wants. She's not going to even get the chance to get a win on Monday Night Raw as NXT Women's Champion. I really like this as a way to bait her into, give me one more shot at that belt, please. And yeah, the appearance of Julia and the weird sort of partnership they had where they just sort of nodded at each, I'll kick her ass, you kick her ass, fair enough. Rhea Ripley making the save and not being forgotten in all this. I just thought it was just such a flex for the women's division across, well, all brands, basically.
Yeah, this was like A to B to C to D stuff. And to your point, the disqualification for me, like, I can't believe I'm going to say this, gives us the opportunity to do this stuff again, protecting everybody involved. Yeah. Like, it's not normally how I want to see this. You don't want to see it become a pattern, but I think certain finishes like this in moderation are fine by me, and this one was kind of a perfect example of it. I'm not, and I get it, by the way, I'm not a fan that says, like, all the time, well, if you haven't got to do a finish, like, if you haven't got to finish, don't book the match. I believe in that in theory, but I think there are rule-proven exceptions, and I would say this was one. And yeah, like, the Roxanne Perez detail, which you picked up from NXT, I think is really important to this, because let's just like deconstruct this slightly. Roxanne Perez has now got one more match with Stephanie Vaquer, one would assume. She's not going to win that title, and then to Sidgwick's relief, she's going to make it up to the main roster full time. So that's done, right? That's taken care of, and this is a nice angle to get you to that point. Meanwhile, Julia, as a new heel accomplice of Roxanne Perez, can either wrap her business up in NXT as like a couple of people that have realised, you know what, we've got a common interest here and we're not getting what we want. Or they come up together as part of a tag team on the main roster, which is going to infuse the women's tag division with something brand spanking new that we wouldn't have thought of, and is a great way to bring Julia up, considering that in such a short time she already won the NXT women's title. Not a lot of business left to conduct for her. So there's kind of no like losses when you break down whichever way this decides to shake out. As well as that, she did it by attacking in Stephanie Vaquer, somebody who's been an ally, but has kind of been the one directly responsible for her downfall. She took advantage of her being injured. She took her titles. She took her last opportunity in the four-way to stand and deliver. This is a good booking. Yeah. There's a lot of little moving parts here, you know. So the Julia Stephanie Vaquer rematch with the heel babyface divide and Julia's ability to become like a very, very violent ass kicker as the bad guy in that story. Fantastic. And then Rhea Ripley immediately establishes herself still as a babyface, ready to chase them off to get to the next Io Sky match, something like that. You know, we'll get it again, maybe Backlash. You know, kind of like close that loop, possibly. You're bringing Rhea Ripley into the view of Stephanie Vaquer for the first time. Like, and yeah, Stephanie Vaquer getting a platform as the NXT champion on one of the biggest episodes of Raw of the year. Like, I think this was perfect, genuinely. The match, by the way, fantastic bit of business for what we got on TV. I want to see all of that again. Really, really good chemistry, really tight connection on all those like punches and the leg scissors and everything. And I just want to put over, because I was doing this when we watched NXT, but I don't think I've had a chance. Having seen her live this weekend, it's even better than I already thought it was. I am completely and utterly in love with the Stephanie Vaquer, never even like sort of breathes heavy after 15 minutes of action selling. Like, watch, this is going to sound weird, but go with me. Watch her lips, because they simply sit like this. No matter if she's 5 seconds in or 5 hours in, that woman must be some sort of cardio monster when it comes to breathing through her nose, because it's a skill. It's so awesome to watch, because it does so much for like her aura as this unflappable figure. And then when she does get her ass beat, like she did off Julia here, it means more. Like I think she's up there. I'm going to stick my neck out. I think she's kind of up there with Liv Morgan. I'm willing to go there, like as my current favourite. A wonderful bit of business, this.
Yeah, I love Stephanie Vaquer. And yeah, normally we'd say, it's Debbie Deeks, don't bother, go and watch it. Do go and check this one out. And while you're at it, keep watching, because genuinely, one of the great... we had a phenomenal video package for CM Punk over WrestleMania weekend. We had a phenomenal video package as well for Punk, Rollins, and Reigns that we saw on SmackDown and the aired numerous times across WrestleMania. I think this might have been even better. The Macklemore chant video for Jey Uso and the road to him becoming World Heavyweight Champion got me a little bit emotional. Maybe it's just been a long week or whatever, but I thought it was an amazing setup for this. Out comes Jey Uso with his World Heavyweight Championship. And Hamflett, he finished, and people were like, no, one more time. What did he do?
He ran it back.
That's right. And they all yeeted, and he talks...
I didn't make a tit of myself trying to get it on socials. I definitely didn't ruin it.
No, let them eat cake, that's what I say. The World Heavyweight Champion is now in your city, he says.
That's what he said.
He talks about giving it all to beat Gunther at Mania and making him tap, and the crowd were chanting about this, and commentary were really enjoying it. More on that later. And if you're happy to see him as champion, say yeah. And they did. And then Sami Zayn returned. Out he comes. Sami Uso chants. Zayn talks about how hard it has been to be away, especially while Jey was going through what he was with Gunther and not being able to help, and missing WrestleMania was hard for him. Neither of them did well on the sidelines. And to be honest, he says... Sami almost didn't come to Vegas at all, but he had to come because he had to make sure he was the first one to stand in this ring and tell Jey how proud he was of him. It was his brother, he deserved it, and every single person knows that you deserve it, Jey. And obviously everyone cheers and chants along with it. But he says, look, I don't want it to get all sentimental on the Raw after WrestleMania. It's time to celebrate. DJ, spin. No, hit the music, he says. And they pose on the corners and everyone yeets. And then there's a split second when Zayn gets off the ropes earlier than Jey and walks behind him. And people are like, what are you doing, Sami? But no, it wasn't a heel turn. He was just there to hug him as he's hugged him so many times. And Big Jim comes out to celebrate with the boys as well. And they do their handshake and they all hug and raise Jey's hand. And it is just genuinely... a lovely moment for new World Heavyweight Champion Jey Uso, although I dropped my arse a little bit.
I think you might have to drop it again in the future as well. A sign of things to come, one assumes. Yet more dark clouds that, well, this is the thing, right? Gathering, but for the moment, cleared, because everything is fine, right? With Sami Zayn and Jey Uso, surely. Even Sami Zayn, the way he was dressed, it got you a bit suspicious that, like, I think it was a very, very, like, a little callback at least to probably more than just this. Shout out Myth Gifts on Twitter, who can give you the best rundown of the Sami and Kevin lore. But I remember when Neville in NXT was kind of first having to, like, tease turning heel because he was, like, struggling to keep his title and Sami Zayn was his challenger. They like the Fred Perry polos. And I think it was that instead of, like, a Jey Uso shirt or the Bloodline, you know, all the Sami Uso stuff he used to wear. It's coming. And what sucks is that you're probably going to just allow yourself to forget it's coming, and then it's going to happen when you least expect it. We had this a year ago with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, and it's still not occurred, and everything was fine between those two. But down the line, and what's pretty cool about this from a narrative world point of view is that it does remind you that the world champion has now always got a target on their back. Like, Jey Uso's made it to the top of the mountain, but everything he thought he knew about what it was to be a WWE superstar changes, because up there, everybody's coming for you. So yeah, lovely to watch on the night, but I think we were all know what we were being led towards, and the dread sits in the pit of the stomach.
More fallout from WrestleMania as Jackie Redmond interviews AJ Styles, talking about his loss to Logan Paul and how it was a tough pill to swallow. And then the real star of the weekend shows up, Karrion Kross, our boy, who, everyone is understandably, quite rightly, push Karrion Kross is talking about. And Kross says, look, AJ, you're one of the best of them, and you being beaten means Logan Paul is legitimised by this. He's pissed off, obviously, that AJ Styles didn't follow his lead, didn't listen, that Alan didn't listen, didn't do the bad thing to do the good thing, and beat Logan Paul by nefarious means at WrestleMania. But Styles said he didn't want to go back to being that guy he was a year ago because he hated it, and beating Paul with the brass knuckles would have been a meaningless victory. You know what? If you want to deal with this, why don't you deal with it yourself, Karrion Kross? And he simply says, maybe I will.
Oh my God, this was nice. Like, Just a quick one on Karen Cross. We talked about the promo that you've got to go watch if you haven't seen it yet. But I want to just put it over specifically that he did keep it about the AJ Styles feud. Yeah, he can do work street stuff and you can think, well, obviously the company are allowing him to say it. Let's not pretend that he's going to get himself fired over some incendiary comments on a podcast. He kept it about the storyline. He kept it about AJ Styles. This is not just him working to get himself up the card. It's working the story he's in.
Now, we love America, and we got the experience of watching Raw in America on Netflix next because we missed some bits because we went to an ad break, of course. And when we came back, I think we missed a A-Town Down Under War Raiders thing. Oh, no. But nevertheless, moving past that, we come back to Gunther just yelling at Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, getting very, very pissed off. The fans are winding up as well by chanting, "You tapped out." And Gunther is pissed off with them being so jovial about Jey Uso being the World Heavyweight Champion. And Michael Cole, probably not your best move here, Mike, saying, "Well, I'm not the one who tapped out." And we all went, "Ooh." And Gunther, understandably, shoves him, knocks his headset off, his glasses go flying as well. McAfee tries to sort of say, "All right, calm down, mate, it's just a commentator," and he shoves him down out of the way, puts Cole in a sleeper. McAfee gets involved, attacks Gunther, and there's a bit of a separation as all the officials come down and get involved. But in amongst all this, McAfee turns his back and Gunther snatches him with a sleeper. Officials are trying to stop him. McAfee's mates, because we thought it was fans for a split second, have jumped the barrier to try and stop them, but none of that helps. He turns Pat McAfee a shade I have never seen arguably anyone go. Yeah, his choke lasts seemingly forever. There's "F you Gunther" chants, and they really sell this by following him through the back. We'll talk a little bit more about what happened after this, but I really want to talk about this moment in particular and how it immediately re-established Gunther.
Yeah, we said you either go one way or the other with Gunther. You either have him disappear completely and we'll have to think about what he might be going through, or you have him absolutely monster somebody and you know exactly how he's going to get over this loss and move forward. And we got the latter, and I have to say, that was indeed Michael Cole, sounding a bit like me through the rest of the show. I think they nailed this, and I will say, like, it was a hot ass angle. Let's short review there, hot ass angle. Go back and watch it, check it out if you're gonna you got about 12 things to watch. There's a lot of homework if you haven't seen this Raw, but this is a thing to definitely go and see because Gunther's so great in the role, simultaneously bully and badass. Like he can do, get yourself an ex-world champion who's very handsome and can do both, and Gunther does just that. And one more thing as well, like Pat McAfee, not a popular figure, a divisive commentator, like to be generous, but commentators that stick up for each other like that does kind of make you clench your fists. A lot of people remember Jerry Lawler and Taz for Jerry Lawler sticking up for Jim Ross in that same way. There is an odd power to the sanctity of the relationship between the two commentators that don't necessarily have to agree with everything in the match. But when that happens, I'll fight for you. I'll do what I can, to sort of support you, that kind of thing. Really, really sweet. And then they added a little detail that I just fell in love with the second I saw it. So out came Big Tess, class, having the big man back on Raw, but with a half tucked in shirt, and he wasn't fully dressed because he was obviously just in the back. Sports coat again. I've just arrived at work. It was amazing. He was obviously backstage, and they're like, "Tess, we need you out there. Pat's gone. He's gone to the hospital, whatever."
They even showed Pierce asking, I think it was Jessica Carr, to go and sort it out.
Yeah,
he said, "Cole, go home."
Really, really well executed to the last detail. Ultimately, big popcorn attacking the commentators angles can often fall a little bit flat if it doesn't feel like it really matters. But this did. This felt quite transgressive. Gunther was crossing a line or something just by attacking the commentators. Loved it.
There was one tiny bit though I laughed where, like I say, Pat McAfee was coughing and spluttering, and they really lingered on him to sell this in terms of him being helped to the back and stumbling a bit and trying to drink water and talking about how he can't really breathe. There was a bit where he went into the trainer's room, the doctor's room or whatever. About 50 other people just followed him in, from his podcast to officials to whoever. Yeah, this was when Pierce turned around to Cole and was like, "Cole, go home. I'm getting Tess to fill in for you." And Cole was like, "No, I still want to work." He's worried he's got a broken nose in amongst all this. But he's like, "You do know we shouldn't have to worry about this sort of thing. We shouldn't be scared about expressing opinions or just having a bit of fun." And then we got the Mega Powers on commentary for the rest of Raw. Michael Cole and Joe Tessitore. What an amazing show. I miss Wade Barrett, always, of course. And I think he should be the one to beat Gunther and put this to bed. But still, very excited to see where they go from here. And yeah, like you alluded to earlier as well, the next match, the IC title match, you had Tessitore and Cole, but every now and again you just hear a as Cole recovers from nearly dying at the hands of Gunther in about 5 seconds, which really just sold it again in terms of, right, yeah, I know some people can kind of fight out of a sleeper when they face him, but they're sports people. These are just regular guys who do commentary. And even though Cole was only in that sleeper for about 5 seconds, he's done real damage to his windpipe, quite possibly. But yeah, as I mentioned, we got the IC title match. Following this, it was Dominik Mysterio, flanked by Finn Balor and Carlito, taking on Penta to defend his IC title. Dom gets in a bit of offense. He actually has control as we go through a break. But of course, Penta fights back and dominates. He hits him with a Mexican destroyer. Balor tries to encourage Dom, but Penta takes out Balor with a Hurricane Rana off the apron and sends him into Dom, who's in real trouble at this point. But then all of a sudden, Carlito, legend, jumps up on the apron, and who should return but JD McDonough to shove Penta off the top rope as he was setting up for something huge. Dom hits a 619 and a frog splash. 1, 2, 3, and they do a big Judgment Day celebration on the ramp. Again, Finn Balor's like, bloody hell, what happened? Oh, yay! Congratulations, Dom. Shenanigans to defeat Penta again. But I don't care. Dominik Mysterio is the IC champion, and he's one of the biggest baby faces in the company right now, seemingly.
Yeah, I do wonder next week, how long, I guess, the momentum will last with Dominik as a babyface. But, fairly rote formula stuff. I don't think this was a show with many lowlights. I think it's cruel to call this a lowlight. Just not particularly one of the highlights of this card, I would say. This was necessary. Yeah, necessary follow-up for Dominik Mysterio and Finn Balor to have these afters, to reintroduce JD McDonough on a night of about 3 million returns and arrivals and stuff like that. That's what this was. So it kind of fit the profile of the show it was on, as well as giving the Dominik and the Finn Balor the next bit of juice ahead of whenever it is they're going to do their payoff. Not bad. And the Judgment Day, for now at least, creatively and narratively feel like they're in a healthy spot again.
Yeah. Right, that's enough for wrestling on this show. Oh, thank God. I saw some people moaning about the lack of wrestling on it, and I thought, I've had a lot of wrestling over the last few days, and I'm not saying that it should always be like this, but it was a show, like you say, with huge developments, and a lot of them, I think matches would just kind of have been lost if you've had a 10-minute back and forth showcasing some talent on there. And also, let's not forget, we also still have the SmackDown after WrestleMania, where one would sense they're going to get even more returns, debuts, and surprising developments. But we have to talk. I'm gutted most of all, I'd say, right now over this weekend. No, maybe actually for the Night 2 opener that we don't have the oh my God button. But this one in particular was something for the ages, wasn't it? Something that everyone has, I'd sort of call it like a narrative Big Bang in my own special words that I like to use here, because Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman, shout out to Michael Sidgwick, all the love to him. Cannot wait to see you soon, Sidge. And what an amazing father he has been, being home for his daughter's birthday this weekend. A
better one than I will ever be, Sidge. Love you.
Normal service will resume in still quite a while. Yeah. Me and Sidge will be back. Me and Sidge will be back together very soon. And just in case you missed it as well, some big developments with the WhatCulture Wrestling podcast. On the one hand, a lovely moment. 65 million listens we hit over WrestleMania weekend. So thank you to all of you, as always, for helping us hit that ridiculous milestone and allowing us to be able to do this. And also, bit of bad news. There's a change to the personnel of the WhatCulture Wrestling podcast we have to fill you in on, because Stax is banned. Okay? He's banned from the podcast. And we may well reassess this in a few weeks.
Speak to him if we can, if we want to, for that matter.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that. What were you saying?
I was just going to say, we'll speak to him maybe when the dust has settled somewhat. How are you? How are you holding up?
I'm still not over it. I'm still really angry. I've gone through various stages of grief, but anger's still right there for me. And I don't know how he dares show his face and be. I mean, he can't tell jokes anymore, can he? It's not a laughing matter, mate. So
didn't seem like he was in a fun-loving mood at the end of Stand and Deliver. Oi.
But we'll circle back to that maybe nearer the time.
We've covered like the biggest heel turn of the weekend, so we best get on to the second, right?
Yeah, good point. Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman comes out. We saw them arriving earlier, but just to remind you, Seth Rollins in this awesome yellow thing. I don't know what it is. Not a fashion guy, you might be able to tell. And Paul Heyman has a tie that matches it. All a lovely touch in all this. Rollins comes out with Heyman, who's just doing his most Heyman face staring at his new charge. Fans sing along to Rollins' music. And Rollins, there's FU Heyman chants I should mention, says he took a wise man from Roman Reigns and stole CM Punk's best friend. And he was basically the man who influences wrestling right now, winning the WrestleMania main event. He barely gets anything out, I should mention here, before CM Punk comes out. Of course, he wants to brawl with him, and he does, and he gets the better of the brawl initially, but when he turns his attention to Paul Heyman, Rollins attacks from behind, goes for CM Punk's eyes, and he's selling on the ground as a curb stomp to CM Punk, who's taken out of it. And Heyman said they would conclude WrestleMania 41 weekend by propelling the news all the way to WrestleMania 42. There is a new, reigning, defending, undisputed #1 top star in this entire industry. Ladies and gentlemen, Seth freaking Rollins. And for a split second on this amazing show, we did think, is that it? We got done by the old graphic gimmick again, because Rollins poses and you get the quite right nod to Papa H and Lee Fitting and the like, and Rob Fee and whoever else. The signature stuff comes up, and just as we thought, that was a bit of a damp squib as a way to end this show, aside from the beatdown of CM Punk. Roman Reigns' music hits. He comes out, hits the ring, spears Rollins, Superman punch to Paul Heyman, and he sets up, and we were getting very excited. Oh my God, is Roman Reigns about to spear Paul Heyman? Ooh, He goes to do it, and, well, no prizes for guessing. A hooded figure spears Roman Reigns instead. He didn't really need the hoodie, to be perfectly honest, because we immediately went, well, there's only one man who does a spear that good, and that is Braun Breaker. The huge pop, of course, in the T-Mobile here. Punk gets back in the ring. Rollins seems surprised by all of this, but of course it's all a swerve, and they're on the same page because, yeah, Breaker then spears Punk. Rollins laughs, embraces Braun. They do that awesome spot. I don't know why he gets me so fired. When two wrestlers just grab each other, put their heads together. Yeah, we're the best. Breaker set up for a spear on Roman outside the ring, but Roman punched him, and that just kind of pissed him off even more. And me and you are like slapping each other on, like, he's going to do the thing all the way around the ring, and he did. And he did something I've never seen before. Boom! Through the barricade. Oh my God. What an amazing way to take out Roman Reigns. Well, actually, that wasn't the end, in fact, because Braun held down Reigns and forced him to watch as Rollins stomped CM Punk. Another one for you, Roman Reigns. And Rollins, Breaker, and Heyman stand tall. Dangerous Alliance, Evolution 2.0, whatever you want to call it. It is just an amazing catalyst. What a start to life after WrestleMania 41.
Oh, God, sorry. Just a recap. Again, get all hot under the collar again. Whew. God damn, what an angle. What an angle. A great reveal, obviously, of Braun Breaker as the new accomplice, I guess, of Seth Rollins, his muscle, his heater, whatever you want to call it. And not before time, realistically, for them to pick a lane with Braun Breaker. Yeah. It's the one thing I've been a little bit critical of in WWE of his booking, which otherwise has been good, and he's a fun wrestler to watch. A really fun wrestler to watch. But not knowing quite where you sit with him as a heel or babyface has meant that some of his like singles or like more meaningful stories haven't connected as much as just the wacky multi-man stuff. Now we know, and what a perfect spot, and what a great bit of deep lore as well. There's always been that little link between Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman going way back to that week when NXT just decided for no reason at all to stack up the show with a bunch of stars and main roster people. Just fancied it, just wanted to spoil the audience. That's what you get when you watch the Fed. So from that point on, there's always been this idea that Paul Heyman has kind of pointed the finger at Braun Breaker and said, you, one day it's going to be you, which is cool because what we now know is that being Heyman, he's already looking past Seth. He's like, you know what you need as well? Do you know what's going to really set your new sort of life off? That guy. And what does that mean? Sooner or later, Seth's going to pay for that when Braun turns on him, and whatever, however that's going to play out, who knows? But like in the meantime, Jesus Christ, you've got like a top heel stable centered around Seth Rollins, who pointedly is being called the biggest star, because that was levied at him throughout the entire build of WrestleMania, that he wasn't a star on their level. What did we say? Well, I was at pains to put it across. Situational Seth guy over here, at pains to put it across that the most economical decision here was putting Seth Rollins over huge, ideally with this turn, because look what you get in the aftermath. And that's without even mentioning, oh my God, power team, babyface, CM Punk and Roman Reigns properly on the same page. Jesus Christ. When's that going to happen? Backlash? Next WrestleMania? I'll have every single version of it. I don't mind. The singles matches that are going to spring forth. And is it even over? Could Becky Lynch be a part of this group? Could Julia and Roxanne Perez be a part of this group? Could, as Adam Nicholas spotted, when John Cena came out with the black and yellow detailing on his trainers, same as Heyman and Seth Rollins, he'd be part of it. The dark clouds, the dark forces, all that sort of thing, you know? There's so many little ways this could play out over the next few months. Yeah, narrative Big Bang was a wonderful term coined by Sidgwick, even though he thinks it's pretentious to name how they nailed the debut edition of Dynamite with the Inner Circle. This feels on the fringes of that because so many of these stars are already made. It's kind of cheating a little bit that you've got, hey man, this could really do good things for us, CM Punk and Roman Reigns. Those upstarts are going to get something big out, you know. But really, look at what this is as a vehicle for Bron Breakker, the next step on his kind of inevitable ascent to the top of WWE. I can't think of anything better. And did a single living soul from here in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, to right back home in the north of England, did anybody think this was coming? No. I didn't see a single soul pick up a detail such as Bron Breakker making a comeback as a heel or bouncing back from his IC title loss. Talking about losing upwards, he's lost all the way at the top. Incredible stuff. Go out of your way, I've said it a lot on this podcast, to watch this.
Yeah, and I think it's a big thing in terms of the Raw after WrestleMania. When I compare it to last year, people were really giddy with excitement about it getting back on track in terms of nailing the returns and debuts and what have you, and big moments like we saw with The Rock and Cody Rhodes. But this is different. You look on social media today and how many different people are pitching ideas for, like you say, stable members, storylines, whatever it may be, even if it's, you know, not Dangerous Alliance stuff, if it's Evolution stuff with Paul Heyman as Ric Flair, which doesn't really work, but I get it. You know, yes, obviously Bron Breakker, Batista, Seth Rollins, Triple H, that makes all the sense in the world. And then you've got, well, who's the Randy Orton character of that new stable? I've seen various mixed names being suggested for that. Ethan Page, Austin Theory I saw being suggested. I really like Mello. I don't know if he's in the right position for it now, but in terms of like, yeah, if you want that Randy Orton character of, you're not ready just yet, but you're the young upstart who we're going to mold, and when you're ready, you know, we'll hand the throne to you eventually.
So he'd be managed by Paul Heyman. Is that anything?
The clues have been there all along. Why didn't we guess? Why didn't we notice? But yeah, an amazing end to a sensational Raw after WrestleMania. Like you say, well worth checking out. I'm sadly flying back to the UK tomorrow, and to try and cheer myself up, I might just have to download this and watch it all over again, because it's a different experience from watching it in the amazing Flanker Bar in Mandalay Bay. And thank you once again to them. And thank you yet again to the amazing Aurora Bar and the unbelievable staff and people behind organising everything for us at the Luxor Hotel and Casino, because it has just been a jaw-dropping week here. So thank you to all of them, and thank you to all of you who've come up and said hello to us across the week, because it has just been so much fun, and hopefully we can do it all again at WrestleMania 42, of course. But do let us know your thoughts on Raw after WrestleMania in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, continue the conversation with us on X at WhatCulture WWE. Well, actually, you can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
You can follow our producer Adam Nicholas at
It's Adam Nicholas.
There you go, seamless. You can follow me at Adam Wilbourn. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE, and make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling wherever you get your podcast from. A daily wrestling podcast. Really fun podcast coming out in the next few days with you and Simon Miller, I want to quickly mention.
Check that out, yeah. Simon Miller is going to talk all about his WrestleMania weekend experience, work in progress, losing the Proteus title. It's a Paul Walter Hauser. The experience of working a wrestling show on the same day that you also do a live stage performance in Las Vegas in front of a slate of wrestling legends, and some amazing pulling the curtain back insights of what it's like to be on the inside of the business, and sharing a few secrets along the way. An absolutely fantastic, engaging chat with the one and only Simon Miller, who we can so rarely get together to do it in person. Loved it. Going to make it an annual tradition.
I like it.
Loved it so much. After a WrestleMania match next year. Please check it out. We cannot wait to get your feedback on it and get you to listen to it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, his match at WrestleMania next year as well.
Indeed, this is it. You see, this time next year it's going to be John Cena, so it might be tricky for us to fit that one in. It turns out it's going to be Miller that's going to save the WWE title. Oh, no, spoiler. Oh, God. Cut it. Cut. Yeah.
What Culture Wrestling podcast, wherever you get your podcast from for that one, of course. But for now, this has been the Raw Review. My thanks to Michael Hamflett. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.